I've confirmation that we are live. I think we're live. Oh, let me see. Let me hit that. Yep, I think we're live now.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Oh shit. All right. Say something again. I just
Yep.
want to. Okay, you're good. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, guys, what's going on? We're the Winter Hill Warriors. We're gonna break down episode 5. Sorry about the audio issues we've been having the last few episodes. We'll figure it out. I swear to God, we will. We're still cooking up other videos for you guys, so thank you to everyone for bearing with us. We're still pretty new to this streaming thing, so just trying to figure it all out. But per usual, I'm Chenny Britt. I'm joined by my boy Damon, and we are going to break this episode down. Per usual, if you're in the chat and you want to get involved, just let us know. We'll be looking at the chat throughout the entirety of this. And if you're new here, we're just going to break it down scene by scene. I usually do a recap, and then Damon kind of gives his breakdown and analysis. And if you've been with us before, you kind of know how this goes. So without further ado, we'll get into the episode. Damon, any thoughts from you before we start? Damon, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. First 10 minutes of this episode start off a little slow. Yep. First 10 minutes of the episode start off slow, but then the last 35 minutes are just straight gas the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's what you texted me when this was going down. Was like first 10 minutes slow, and then it's pure gas. So that is exactly what happened. So let's start. So we start off with looking over at the wolves, right? The what is it? The Wolf Liberation Front. What is it? WLF? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's World Liberation Front, and they just go by Wolf.
Okay, yeah. And then it's this lady Hanrahan. She was the one who recruited our boy Isaac. So she's looking at one of her units, and she's kind of like upset about them or something. Seems to be a little bit of tension within the WLF. Then she ends up sitting across the table from this Asian woman. I forget what her name is. If you remember, Damon, let me know. But she's like one of her lieutenants or whatever. So basically, she's questioning this woman on what the fuck just happened. Apparently, this woman led a team down, and they were clearing the hospital, right? So I think there's a hospital in Seattle, Lakeview Hospital, and they were going level by level, just clearing out the hospital. They said they found a few infected, nothing crazy, and then they got to the basement, which I think. So I think they went from the ground floor all the way up to the sixth floor. There was no issues. All they had left was the basement. There's 2 levels in the basement. There's B1 and B2. So apparently, some of the initial patients back in '03 when the outbreak first started got actually put in this basement. So this is, there's some like old cordyceps infection going on there. So I think B1 was fine. But then when they got to B2, there were some issues. So they said B1, the first basement floor, it was completely empty. There was not even rats. So that's a little bit odd. And then the Asian woman put someone named Leon in charge, which we actually find out is her son. She put Leon in charge to go explore the second unit of the basement, so B2. So they go down 1 floor, and then she doesn't hear anything from her son. And then she gets a radio call from him saying, or he's like gasping for breath, and she's like, "Did you get bit?" And he goes, "Nope, it's in the air." So the cordyceps has now spread into the air. Wherever this shit's going on, the cordyceps has evolved to now become spores in the air. And her son is a hero because he requested that they shut them all down there. So that entire unit is basically just rotting in there and turning into cordyceps. And this news, is brutal for Hanrahan, because at first I think Hanrahan comes into this meeting like very upset at her subordinate being like, "You didn't follow my orders," or like something went wrong. Then she realizes, no, she just lost her son. Like, this woman just lost her son because her son got infected and sacrificed himself and his entire unit. It's just absolutely fucked. And that basically ends the meeting. And that's how we start off this episode. Any thoughts, Damon?
Yeah, her name is Elise, I believe, and it reminded me a lot when there's the realization that the cordyceps is in the air of the cold open in season 1, where there are those dudes on the talk show
Yes.
talking about evolving cordyceps, how it could transmutate and affect humans eventually. But this is a way more horrifying realization too, because with enough time in a colder, damp location, cordyceps just becomes your worst nightmare, right? This is the worst evolution we've seen to this point. I feel like we're also repeating the mistakes of the past though, because their solution is to wall off what's going on and everything, which is good. It's safe, very safe. But then there's no real plan to deal with it, which reminds me a lot of what they did in Kansas City,
Right.
where they just sort of put everything in the basement and kept it there. Like it's just what I used to do when my mom would tell me to clean my room when I was a kid. I just put all the junk in the closet, shut the closet, and eventually the door broke on me. So like, this could get worse.
It if you've ever cleaned a sink before, you know how like in the bathroom sink, after a while the shit will just start to clog, and
Yeah, especially with certain roommates.
right, especially with certain roommates that that you have had in the past that that I introduced you to. Like
Thanks, man.
it's yeah. It's funny because the go-to is just to pour Drano in there, and that works temporarily, but eventually you basically have to do the real shit, which is actually go underneath the sink, pull out the stopper, and you see all of that fucking gunk and just fucking scrape it off. It is disgusting. But
Got to get in there, man. We kid, we love the guy, but man, you just got to get in there, and they just got to get in there and get rid of this because this could get pretty gnarly.
right, it's aggressive attack and curing the problem instead of just the symptoms. All right, so pretty horrifying realization. We then jump over to our two main chicks, Ellie and Dina, and they've been holed up in Seattle at this little music store. I think they still got their horse here, I believe, or maybe not. Maybe it's the hotel. But anyways, Dina's got a little bit of knowledge with combat and just military strategy because she's been listening to the radio that they confiscated from one of the WLF soldiers, basically tracking their movements, figuring out where they go, where they don't go, and she's been using a map of Seattle to figure out how they're gonna get to the hospital. Right, that's where they're trying to go, Damon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Dina's doing all of that. She's doing something called triangulation. Do you know anything about triangulation? I have no fucking clue what it is.
No, I got really bad at math once I got to high school. I don't know what it was. I was all good with times tables, but once the shapes and letters got involved, my knowledge went out the window.
Yeah, so it's some sort of tactic. I don't know. But Ellie's not really involved in this. She's just like trusting Dina to find a safe way for her to get to the hospital. And so while Dina is doing some work, Ellie goes and finds this little or this massive auditorium, and so looks like I lied. I think last episode I said that they were at a movie theater. I think this is actually just a straight theater, right, Damon? It's like a theater where
Yeah.
you do plays and shit. So that's where they've been holed up. That's actually where Ellie and Dina fucked. But so Ellie's like looking at all these instruments on stage. She starts playing the guitar and getting a little bit emotional. And that's when Dina comes in and says, "Okay, I have found us a path to get through, and this will bring us to the hospital. Although there is this one building that the WLF seems to avoid like the plague. I wonder why. Anyways, they've been avoiding this building, and they're like, yeah, there's probably infected in there, but we can use this building to kind of like as like a midpoint before they get to the hospital because based on the radio calls, they know that one of the girls named Nora, who they know was in that original crew with Abby, she's at the hospital. So in the WLF, they didn't anticipate someone stealing their radio, so they're just broadcasting their positions on the radios. So another thing they've picked up from the radios is that the World Liberation Front, they've been fighting the Scars and blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty much it. And now they're like, okay, we're going to wait until I guess they're going to wait until it starts getting dark. Or no, they're going to, sorry. I think they're going to go now, right, in broad daylight, and then maybe wait in the warehouse until it gets dark, and then do the last, half mile or so to the hospital. This part was a little bit confusing, but what'd you think about that planning scene before I jump to them actually en route?
I thought it was interesting to take a look at the other side of Wolf, the fact that they're so arrogant that they're just saying things and revealing locations over the microphone. This pairs pretty well with the way Isaac was acting toward the that guy from the Scars last episode when he was interrogating him.
Yeah.
So just the fact that he was pulling that kind of, we are more advanced than you card, and that seems to be what the whole organization carries themselves like.
Yeah.
And then you just get to look at like the Dina Ellie back and forth, where Ellie might be the badass in terms of when shit goes down, but Dina does have like a calmer, more thoughtful, the brains and the approach. Like the same way that she was the one who put the entire go from Jackson to here plan together with Seth's help. So Ellie is what she's been using ever since Joel passed, but there are limits to that. Eventually, Ellie is going to come loose here.
Yes. That is a good point. All right, I'm gonna jump to. And then one thing they mentioned too is something about the Amish, where they're kind of wondering what the scars are all about. They know that they don't use weapons, or they don't use machines. Essentially, they use bow and arrows. So they're like, hey, I forget which one of them mentions it, but they're like, hey, they're kind of like the Amish, right? They choose to live like it was the 1800s. So now let's jump over to the actual, the journey to the hospital. And so it's broad daylight. They're walking. They're talking a little bit about Dina's baby, and Dina's joking around saying if it's a boy, I'm gonna name him Elijah. If it's a girl, I think she said I'm gonna name her Ellie or something, right? Let me actually double check that. But they're kind of just fucking around. They hear some explosions in the distance, and they see a mural of this goddess, this deity that the Scars worship, and it says "Feel her love," and they just see this woman, and then they see a bunch of dead Scars right underneath with the spray paint saying "Feel this, bitch." So some bodies that have been dropped on the side of the Scars, and this is, seeing these bodies kind of gives Ellie a wake up call where she's like, this is fucking crazy. We're doing this thing. This is such a dangerous mission. You're about to have a baby. Like, we should just turn back, Let's just turn back. But Dina counters and then tells a story of the first person she ever killed. So it turns out when she was younger, she was living with her mom and her sister in an abandoned cabin in New Mexico. And one day she went on a walk and she took the gun with her, and without her mom knowing. And when she got back, a raider had found her mom and sister and killed them. And Dina ended up killing the raider. And Dina's like, look, whatever Joel did, no one deserves to die like that. And if I didn't kill the raider right then and there, I would have spent the rest of my life trying to hunt him down. So, I'm in this with you, and I'll keep going if you want. I'll turn back if you want. There's no right answer. And then with that being said, they're both basically committed to going on this mission. What did you think about that?
I really like how they used the Dina-Ellie relationship to shed a little more light on the world that they're king thing, especially with her being pregnant. At first, you're like, okay, like it's happening a lot. Why does it happen whenever she sees the dead bodies of people, but not necessarily when the infected come around? Because she's used to the infected being in Jackson. The infected are a subhuman enemy. But the idea of humans treating each other like this and all of this brutality and this darkness is what sets her over the edge, especially because she's pregnant now. So we see that. There's also the fact that she's willing to ride or die. Like, I love that she comes to the point where, if somebody comes after your family in a brutal way, she just wants to facilitate the type of revenge that she would want in the same situation for Ellie. In a place like this, if you can't get your get back on somebody that really screwed over someone that you loved more than the world itself, then what's the point of being in that world, right? You got to be willing to risk it all. Still, I mean, is it insane that Dina is now pregnant and on this mission? Yeah, it's still very like, whoa, like, what are we doing here? But at the same time, I understand why she's so ride or die.
Yeah, it's a good point that you make about revenge. Like, there's no rules in this fucking world. You're already living in a zombie apocalypse. So if you can't get revenge, then what else do you really have in this world? All right, let's jump over to this warehouse scene, and this is gonna get kind of crazy because this is where basically shit goes down. So from here on, it's as Damon says, it's all gas. So it's nightfall. They stop at this little warehouse, and at first they're like, "Look, we're close by to the hospital. We should be fine." And you know, that's that, right? So then they are kind of like wondering why it's so quiet in this warehouse. They're waiting for some infected to pop out. As they continue to explore, they end up going to this like boiler room, and that is where they see one dude has just been ripped in half. So clearly, infected are nearby. And then they look, and then they see. Let me see if I can try to find it. Yes, they see this infected pop out, and he is very similar to the infected that Ellie saw at that supermarket back near Jackson. I think it was episode 1, the one where it was like basically baiting her. Like instead of just sprinting at them, they're playing hide and seek. They got more tactical, so they're in a little bit of trouble because if they're surrounded by these infected, they're a lot smarter. They're pretty fucked because they're not going to be easy to kill. So Ellie tells Dina, like, this is one of the smart ones, and it bit me. And Dina's like, what the fuck, it bit you? And this is before Dina knew about Ellie's immunity. So Ellie's like, yeah, I wasn't going to tell you that it bit me. Anyways, it's going to be fast. It's going to be sneaky. We're in a little bit of trouble. It's going to try to flank us. So Ellie says, look, I'm going to lure them out. And then you basically run over to this little area where there's like a fence that closes. So it's like this little fence closet. So you run in there, you shut that gate, and hopefully they can't get to you. I'm going to lure as many as I can out because I'm the one who's immune. So they follow through with the plan, and it goes pretty poorly. So Dina sprints over. She gets over to the cage while Ellie basically is like trying to shoot as many infected as she can. The problem is the infected have like superhuman fucking strength. So eventually they start ripping through the cage, and Dina runs out of bullets, so she can't keep shooting them. And Ellie is basically getting tackled by one infected, and she's not able to. I'm trying to see if I can find specifically where it's at. Ellie gets taken to the ground by one of the infected. Once again, she's immune to the bites, but she could still die. And it looks like they're fucked. And then out of fucking nowhere, they hear some gunshots, and it's our fucking boy. Let me see. Fucking Jesse.
Let's go.
Yeah, this motherfucker pulls up, and now he doesn't know about Ellie's immunity. All he has seen, so he shoots the infected that's on top of Ellie. All he has seen is that infected on top of Ellie. So his initial concern is, did you get bit? And Dina's like, no, she didn't get bit. She didn't get bit. Trust me, I saw her the entire time. Whatever. So Dina's safe, didn't get touched. Ellie didn't get touched. Or maybe she got touched, but it doesn't really matter. And Jesse's like, let's get the fuck out of here. So they start sprinting out, and they're on the run now. The problem is all of these gunshots have attracted the WLF. So the WLF soldiers start pulling up, and now, the 3 Jackson, Wyoming residents are sprinting for their fucking lives. They dodge some gunfire. They run into the park. Now, this park must be fucking massive, dude. So in that park, the WLF do not chase them, and we find out that this park is basically all territory of the Scars. So now our three protagonists, I'll say, are in the park with the Scars. I'm going to pause here before we get into the rest of the park scenes. Thoughts on what just happened?
Yeah, I really like this scene. Didn't see it coming, and I think that's the best part. Where we had some big lead ups to some big set pieces earlier in the season, this one just sort of smacks you in the face. From the 30-second lecture that Dina gives Ellie about pulling out the gun that the strap was getting pulled out. Like, she was going to have to use that. I think are in a dark, dank room and multiply it by 7 or 8, because it just feels like there's always more than you expect around the corner. Jesse coming back in is so crucial, and with Tommy waiting in the wings, it gives you a little more confidence in the plan, because a nice aspect of The Last of Us that gets rid of the idea of like an OP type of character is that you need a network. You can be an incredible shot. You can be a nasty fighter, but you need some kind of team. You need that human connection to really get shit popping. Like Ellie is awesome, but more bodies are needed, especially with Dina being pregnant. So the reinforcements couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, yeah. So another thing. So let me jump ahead to. So now they're in the park, and basically they're like, Jesse, how the fuck did you find us? And it turns out, let me see if I can find specifically what he says. Okay, yeah. So basically, the day after Dina and Ellie snuck out, Jesse and Tommy were like, we got to go after them and get them. So Jesse and Tommy have been tracking them this entire time. Tommy and Jesse separated the second they got to Seattle, but Jesse found Dina's map in the theater, so he was able to use the map to track them down. And he also says impressive triangulation, by the way. And Jesse's pissed at Ellie, and they say the plan is right now. We just got to survive this, and we're gonna rendezvous with, I think, Tommy, right? The Tommy at the. Are they gonna meet at the hotel? I'm trying to find where they're gonna meet. I think it's the hotel. So Tommy's out in the city running around right now as well. I'm trying to find out what he says specifically. Anyways, yeah, so they're going to rendezvous with Tommy the next day. But right now they're trapped in this little park, and they hear some voices nearby. They look, and there is a very gruesome scene going on. A WLF soldier has been captured by some of the scars, and we see the leader of this little sect. What's his? Do you know his fucking name? I couldn't find his name. But anyways, this guy is just like, he's got this sickle in his hand.
No, I couldn't get the leader of it.
Okay, yeah. He's got his sickle in his hand, and they string the guy up by his neck, and they pull him up, and the guy's like, please, I'll join you. And they're like, nope, like, you're too full of sin. You're going to experience her love. She watches over us all. It's just some very freaky religious shit. And let me see. And then he fucking, he guts him. So he uses the sickle, just fucking guts him. The intestines are falling out, and it's fucked up. At that moment, they get spotted. So Dina gets hit with an arrow because some nearby, like, hidden Seraphites have been, spotting them, and now they're running for their fucking lives. Jesse, fortunately, is a bigger dude. He picks up Dina, and Jesse's like, listen, I'll meet you guys back at the theater. And Ellie runs off on her own. And now, it's just basically like every man and woman for themselves. And we see this little young Seraphite right here. She's like, she looks like she's probably a fucking teenager. And she's just like, may she guide us. And then they go and chase after everyone. Ellie escapes, and she actually escapes the park. So I'm gonna pause before we get to the scenes where Ellie escapes the park and actually makes her way to the hospital. So basically they were able to cut through the park accidentally and get to the hospital. We don't know where Jesse and Dina are or if they're still alive, but we know the plan is to meet at the theater. What did you think about just that torture scene?
Here again, we said the scars are the alternative, but as it turns out, they're also pretty demented. Like you said, the younger Seraphite, just like, make she guide us. Like right after all that goes down, it's just crazy. How principled and stubborn do you have to be in your beliefs to be like, nah, man, I don't care how much you beg. Like, we're cutting you open with this sickle right now. Like, whew, kind of chills. Like, it's almost the radicalized Amish sect full of Katniss Everdeen's just running around here firing bows. So I think we're gonna see more of this as the season gets stretched, and the next season is the second half of the second game, I believe. I think it's at least one more season after this, just to the second game. So we're going to see how this all plays out between these two factions. They're both fascinating in their own way. I think the Scars, to me, are more interesting than the Wolves, because the Wolves, you can understand what their deal is. They're just kind of Federal light with a different goal. But the Scars give you the creeps, especially with all the torches around and the darkness and the fact that they really know the woods like the back of their hand. That to me is a more dangerous enemy.
Yes. And to me, the Scars are more naturally, like you said, torturous than the Wolves. The Wolves seem a little bit more straightforward. So all right, let's jump over. So now Ellie is she makes her way to the outskirts of the park, and she's like, "Oh shit, I'm actually at the hospital." So somehow I've backdoored myself into the hospital. They do have watchdogs, so I don't know what she necessarily uses to kind of bait the dog away. But she basically just like I don't know. Maybe it's like a fucking body part or something. I don't fucking know. But she uses something to bait the dog to think that like someone is hiding in this little like this little hole, and while the guard isn't looking, she sneaks into the hospital. We then jump to the hospital and we see Nora. So now we actually put a name to a face. We knew that there was two other girls in that group outside of Abby. One of the names was Nora. We didn't know which one was which. Now we know Nora is actually the one with the shaved head. And she basically functions as a medic. So she must have been maybe a nurse or like, came from a nursing family or something, because she has some sort of knowledge in taking care of their wounded soldiers. So she's just at the hospital taking care of everyone. And then she goes and she's like kind of washing her hands. And that is when Ellie pulls up with the gun pointed and is like, "Where's Abby?" And immediately Nora's like, "I don't know." And then Nora recognizes who this is. And Ellie's just like, "You should have stayed the fuck out of Jackson." And at first it seems like Nora is going to apologize for what they did to Joel. She's like, "Look, I'm sorry that you had to see all that shit, blah, blah, blah." But she then says, "Sometimes at night I still hear screams, but yeah, the little bitch got what he deserved." Ooh. So with that being said, then she throws like this like cleaner fluid on Ellie, right? It's like some alcohol or something, whatever it is. Nora starts running for her life. Ellie starts shooting after her. Now there's tons of WLF soldiers in this building, so Ellie has just alerted the entire building to her presence. Nora starts sprinting. Ellie's chasing her. Nora is, she's basically trapped, and the only place that she can go to is the elevator. So the elevator shaft is open. She jumps down, and she jumps down on top of the elevator, but the elevator's not moving. So if Ellie gets here, Nora is basically a sitting duck. Ellie does get there, and Nora is able to open up the doors to one other floor, and the floor, unfortunately, is B2, which we know is the infected floor. So Nora, but it's either stay in the elevator shaft and get shot by Ellie, or run for her life, and Nora runs for her life. Now Ellie has no choice but to jump down in the elevator shaft and also go to B2, because on her tail are WLF soldiers. Now they recognize that they're in B2, and they're like, "Yo, we're not going in there." So they don't chase after Ellie. So now it's just Ellie chasing Nora, and this set piece was incredible. But we see Ellie walk in, and it's so fucking gnarly. Like, we look around and we see that this entire floor is just crawling with cordyceps. It's fucking disgusting. And there's like, and we see that the soldiers from what was her name again? The Asian lady, Elise. Elise
Yep.
Park. So her unit that was led by her son. We see their bodies are still kind of fresh, and they're just getting eaten up alive by the cordyceps. And these guys are like still kind of alive, and they're probably just like dying. And then we see her son. We see the close up of her son. I'm trying to see if we see the name tag, and it says L Park, so his name's Leon Park, and that is her son, and he is fucking about to turn into an infected. So Ellie sees that gruesome scene, turns on the lights, and finds Nora at the end of the hall. Nora is coughing because the spores have now infected her, and she's like, "You stupid bitch, you killed us both." This is a pretty sweet scene. I'm not gonna lie,
Yes.
Ellie's just like, "Did I?" That was pretty fucking badass. It's like an anime character superpower reveal. And
Yeah, it felt like Vegeta.
it felt like Vegeta. And, it felt like when Vegeta first turned Super Saiyan, and he's like, "Does a machine like you ever feel fear?" And so fucking, and then Nora's like, "You're her." It's like, "I'm him." And Nora's like,
him.
"I'm him." And Nora's like, "The immune girl, you're," and Ellie's like, And Nora obviously is like, well, if you're the immune girl, then you're the one that was in the hospital that Joel rescued and murdered everyone. So surely you must know what he did, right? And Ellie's like, I do know what he did, and I don't care.
The
And
second hardest moment. Like, I know.
I know, right, right. Ellie knew the second Joel rescued her, and Nora's like, "Look, he killed everyone at that hospital, including the only fucking person alive that could make the cure, which was Abby's father." And Joel shot him in the head, and Ellie's just like, "Whatever."
Cool.
I don't. Yeah, cool story. And then Ellie's like, "Tell me where Abby is." Now I'll give Nora props. She's a real one. She refuses to snitch on where Abby is. So Ellie sees the lead pipe and basically beats Nora to death. And then the episode ends with basically a flashback to Jackson, Wyoming, when Joel was still alive. And Ellie wakes up one morning. Joel walks in. It's basically like father-daughter type of moment. And everyone online is speculating, Damon, that next week is the flashback episode. But yeah, what were your thoughts on just that whole entire fucking ending sequence? Have at it. Just, I think it's the whole chase scene, basically.
Yeah, I would not mind a flashback episode. One of the things that jumps out to me is it is crazy how awful and repugnant these torture scenes seem when it's a character you don't like doing it to a character you like,
Mm-hmm.
Abby versus Joel, versus how absolutely badass it is when a character you like is doing it to someone you don't like. Like, maybe I could have looked inward on that one, but that was pretty sick. Like when Joel was doing it in season one to the dude with the map in the house in the middle of the winter, like something just really satisfying about watching your character torture somebody who you just hate as a character right now. Her revenge lust is on point, right? Like I know that they do this thing where she's cracking some jokes with Dina, trying to keep things light, coping with the trauma that way. The whole like, talking about being a dad line and all this, but what she wants deep down. Like personally, the darker Ellie has gotten and the darker that Bella Ramsey has taken the character, the more I've enjoyed the scenes this season. Maybe that's something about me. Maybe that's something about the way I watch TV. But that's a combo for a different time, right? I just think that this is now, it's going to be hard for her to switch back and forth from revenge to cheery to revenge to cheery. I think now she's going to have to embrace the darkness a little bit. And the set piece, like you mentioned, really cool. It's only like the fourth time I've mentioned this, but B2 is absolutely like a deleted scene from Annihilation. The
Yes.
cordyceps just running rampant. Like it's almost borderline artistic the way that it takes shape, like some kind of twisted coral reef formation, but repulsive at the same time. I just think it was an episode where Bella put up absolute numbers acting wise, and I'm just all aboard the revenge train.
Yeah, I'm looking at this cordyceps. Man, I just like I would just love to take a fucking flamethrower to all of that, you know? I
Yeah.
it is crazy. Like you mentioned it, right? It is crazy that the WLF has tanks, they got a militia. They're so busy fighting the scars that not once did you think like let's just take everything from the hospital that we can, set up somewhere else and just fucking torch this place. You know?
They're like,
Let's just
we need the building. It's like, man, you could find another building.
find another building, bro. Get as much as you can out of there and then go fucking torch this place. Like seriously, what are you guys doing? Like just having your hospital there and knowing in the basement of the hospital is like some gruesome shit and you're just cool with that? Like that's insane. Like how could you sleep
It's
at
like
night knowing that it's in the same building as you?
Chernobyl level negligence.
Yeah. Um yeah, pretty fucking insane. All right. So, yeah, that I think let me see. Erica comments in the chat, they're breathing it in since the levels aren't fully sealed off. Yeah, exactly. That's another thing is everyone else in the everyone else in that hospital is basically breathing it in, right? Like the
Yeah,
Nora opening up the elevator shaft. I mean, it's gonna get to everyone. Another thing I learned is that in the video game, apparently, from even the first one, they already had spores that you could get infected with in the air. But I guess the directors of this, Neil Druckmann, decided like we're gonna wait to season two to kind of show that evolution. Um,
okay.
so that's interesting. Dude, I'm curious as to see like how the fuck Jesse and Dina get out. Like
Yeah.
we both think Dina's gonna die, right? I hope she doesn't die, dude.
Well, now that they brought in Jesse, like I feel like Jesse is very likely to die. Like
Oh my
someone from the
god.
main crew's got to die, and
Right, right.
Jesse's that's gonna hurt, man. That's really gonna hurt.
I know, right? For me, the only other Asian character just gets. I hope they don't gut him like they do this guy right
Oh,
here.
yeah, man. Please let Wolf get him and not the scars.
Yeah, just have like him die in a gunfight with Isaac or something.
Blaze of Glory.
Right, right. I don't want Dina to die, obviously, because now she's carrying a child, and then Tommy's a father. So, but Jesse's also a co-father, so it is pretty fucked up all around.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Also, dude, we don't know anything about Seattle, but this park must be massive to just be able to hole up and do this. Like, does
Yeah,
Seattle
like
have a
Central
park?
Park sized, or at least close to it.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, because in Boston we have the Commons, but there's no way the Commons would like this. Looks like a straight forest.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, all right. Appreciate everyone for watching. I think we had some light audio issues, but nothing crazy. We're figuring it out. We're getting better. We'll be back next week for the penultimate episode, and then this is only a 7-episode season. Fucking HBO, man.
Yeah.
So we'll be back for the flashback one. Then we'll be here for the season finale. Any other final thoughts, Damon? You got before we go?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see how this wraps up. They're gonna have to stash Dina for a little bit because that leg's got to heal up. Really excited to see Tommy Boy back in play.
Yes, sir. All right. With that being said, we'll catch you guys later. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Appreciate the comments. Erica, appreciate that. And we will be back.
Later.